Welcome back for the first time. I'm Unreliable. In this video we're going to look at how to build a gaming computer, or any computer to match your needs and price point, and how to get the most value and least stress out of building a system. Everything I'm saying here also applies to pre-built systems, or a computer that you currently have and are looking to upgrade. You won't need any specialist prerequisite information or any formal understanding of computers, and everything I'm going to talk about can easily be Google searched. So let's start for the start. Frame rates and resolutions. Is this machine for VR? Is it for 1440p plus gaming? Is it for 144Hz 1080? If you don't already know what monitor you'll be using, it can be hard to calibrate for, but as a general rule, 1080 is still the standard for the majority of gamers. And if you're building for the higher end of PC gaming, 1440p plus or 120 frames a second plus, then how much forward compatibility are you willing to pay for? Something like a GTX 770 sells for about £90 and can play most games at 1080 at high settings. A GTX 980 is £220 and can play most games at medium high at 1440, but falls a bit short on most games at even 30 frames a second at 4K. Whereas something like the GTX 1080 is about £600 and can max out most games at 1440 and can even hold 60 frames a second at medium high on most games at 4K. But is it worth the extra £350 difference between high 1440 and high 4K, or worth the extra 130 to move from 1080 to 1440p? There's also the case where you're building a machine to reach a specific frame rate window for FreeSync or G-Sync, or for a high refresh rate monitor, or just because you want to play at that frame rate. If that's the situation you find yourself in, then you'll spend more to accommodate for these features. So before we go any further, let's have a look at best build practices. Best build practices apply to different builders. Are you going to use all new parts? Means all your parts are almost certainly going to work, and you get a manufacturer warranty, but also outside of sales and deals, this will be the most expensive way to build your computer. What about building your machine from used parts? Meaning your parts will probably work, and you might even be able to salvage the remainder of the warranty, depending on the item. The amount you can save on used parts can be huge, but with huge savings come huge potential compromises. Things like storage can be checked to see how old it is, and how much it's been used, and other components might show signs of physical wear, but power supplies, graphics cards, RAM and processors can be sold as a few months old with minimum use, when really it's a year of 12 hours a day full load gaming on it. So for those items, the PSU, graphics, RAM and CPU, if you aren't sure of the seller, then that transferable warranty should be one of the first things you look for, and then right after that a bill of receipt for when they bought the item. What about fixed or refurbished parts? Again, your parts will probably work, but you'll only get a warranty from the refurbisher, if any. The same applies here as with used parts. You only get a seller's warranty, 3, 6, 9, maybe 12 months, where you'll be able to return the component to the seller and either have it fixed or refunded, normally at the cost of you paying the postage, but again that's specifically refurbishers. What about a mix of new, used and refurbished? This would give us the most flexibility, the best price to performance, but potentially could be the most complicated, especially when it comes to trying to keep track of your warranties. Next is the upgrade ethos. Are we going to upgrade the machine over the course of its lifetime, upgrade it as frequently as possible, upgrade it only when necessary, or never open it up once it's sealed? Let's have a look at each one. If we upgrade the machine over the course of its lifetime, then it might not be necessary to spend £600 on a graphics card right away. Something like a GTX 780 Ti goes for about £160 right now, and still plays most games at 1080 1440p at high max. Also this might mean buying a motherboard that supports overclocking, but buying a processor that doesn't, always with a mind of upgrading later on to one that does. Or having an extra few hundred watts on your power supply, because you're always planning on adding in Crossfire or SLI, even if few is ever actually do. Let's look at upgrading as frequently as possible. Paying a premium for certain components, make sure you have an uninterrupted upgrade path with things like connector types and case compliances with USB 3.1B or whatever the hell the new one is. This is obviously the most expensive way to do it, but if you want all the best of all the new things, then I hope your budget can accommodate. Only upgrading when necessary. Recently, SSDs have dropped so much in price. A system for 2 or 3 years ago could see a substantial performance increase. Things like DDR3 and DDR4 RAM are relatively closely matched. Most graphics cards don't actually saturate PCIe Gen 3 x 16, so that'll be about a while. And gaming on a quad core still seems to be the general standard. So it could be quite a while before we upgrade any of our components again if we only need to upgrade when necessary. In fact, it'd almost certainly be the M.2 or the U.2 for quicker storage. Or what about the last upgrade type? Never open it up once it's sealed. Dust won't affect system performance or temperature. In fact, it'll only increase it by a few degrees in the worst case scenario. One of the biggest problems is dust clogging up the fan and causing that kind of rubbing noise. Maybe it's worth opening it up for that, but if your plan is to build a system, use that system into the ground, cool man, that's for you, that's your prerogative. Let's jump onto Windows. Do I need to pay £80 for a copy of Windows? No. No, you don't. You don't need to pay £80 for a copy of Windows. Next is sales, seasonal deals in China. Do you care and can you wait? Should you buy a lesser part and wait for your ideal part to go on sale? This comes down to your upgrade ethos and what you're planning on doing with the part when you're done. It also matters how much you're willing to save by waiting on the sale as well. But as a good general rule, computer technology always gets cheaper, especially as it ages. So something like a quad-core Intel processor that started off at 250s down to 150 now. But saying that, holding on to a dual core with 4 threads all that time, waiting on it dropping £100 almost certainly isn't worth it. Can you actually save money by waiting till sales and buying them then? Yeah, a lot of people think it's just the same crap that's on normally at the same price roughly. But during the year, the machine I built during Black Friday would have cost me about £550. It cost me less than £260 altogether, and that's components that aren't normally discounted that heavily. Should I buy for China? Yeah. You might have to wait as much as a month, and returning to China can be a right pain in the arse, but typically you can save 5 to 10% for your trouble. Saying that, I saved 30% on an i5 6500 and it worked fine. Can you wait for cash back? They normally have a window you can collect your cash back, something like no sooner than 30 days, no later than 60 days. So if you're willing to wait a month, you can reclaim 2 to 10%. Let's move on to use case. Who uses the system and for how often? Is the system for you or will it be shared with family? If your system's shared, storage might be a premium. Things like water cooling on a machine that's left on 24/7 might be less viable as well. How often will you be gaming versus non-intensive use? Again, the same as the first point, water cooling on a system that doesn't game very often might not be worth it. But saying that, playing games might drown out the sound of noisy fans, whereas if you're just sitting doing non-intensive work all day and you've got loud fans whizzing, that could be a right pain. Where is the system going? How large is the room the system's in? Is it going to be near the floor? Is it going to be near your head or a microphone? Will it be dusty or cramped or hot where it is? Let's move on to end of life. What's going to happen when you're done with the machine? Are you going to try and resell the system? If you are, then you should try and keep the boxes and all the accessories, plus the remaining warranties and bills of sale will help make sure you get the most value for reselling your components. Are you going to carry over some of the components to the next build? SATA 3 connectors and PCIe devices should be transferable for the foreseeable future. If you're okay with reusing power supplies for your next build, the 24 pins almost certainly going to travel as well. Also our case, assuming it meets our needs, should be able to be transferred. In fact, in most cases, CPU and motherboard normally are the 2 components I'd say constitute a next build. Are you going to give it away? If you're giving it away, Windows 10's got a nice feature that allows you to just reset it back to Windows as if it's a blank install. You don't need to actually reinstall Windows, you don't need to do anything else, it's just reset me back to blank. So it gets rid of all your personal information. That's really nice, making things quite a bit easier to actually just give a system away. Next is technical knowledge. How much do you think you know about what you're going to buy and what you're going to assemble? Do you have someone that can help you pick the parts that assemble your computer? Having someone being able to check compliances as well as help you put together the parts can be massively beneficial and make the build a hell of a lot less stressful, to be honest. Never mind just having someone else to blame. Do you plan on overclocking or adding new components? This will mean you'll need the prerequisite hardware that supports overclocking or the expansion options to be able to add new hardware. Have you built a computer before or in the past decade? For the most part, everyone's the same. PCI has an E at the end and SATA's replaced SCSI as a standard drive connector, but most of what you know is still transferable. Overclocking and removing significant performance limitation. Do you plan on overclocking your CPU, GPU or memory? Depending on the parts you use and which component is the significant performance limiter will determine how much you gain from overclocking. A 4960K Intel processor can overclock to around 4.5, giving it much more room for CPU greedy games, but will require more than a stock fan to be able to reach those speeds and sustain them without thermal throttling. RAM normally costs slightly more for the versions that can boost, and won't give much improvement over games, assuming you're not using onboard graphics. All modern dedicated graphics cards have some software utility that allows them to overclock the GPU core and VRAM, again at the expense of temperature and noise. Do you plan to add RAID, SSDs or hard drives or even a PCIe based M.2? Buying these as onboard features can save you money in the long run, but will normally have a higher upfront cost and you might not be able to make use of it until you actually buy the upgrade. Does noise matter to you, and how much does it matter? Spending more on an aftermarket CPU cooler, case fans, and third-party graphics card that runs quieter or silent normally means that you're running it lower than their full speed. If you're planning on overclocking, then the obvious assumption is that the system will be hotter and the fans might not be as quiet or silent anymore. Let's move on to value versus convenience. Websites like PC Part Picker will search for the best prices for the majority of online retailers, and it'll put your selected hardware into a nice list for you to search through. But for the most part, these aggregate websites don't count limited time or special deals, and can't search for items sold by individual resellers. So there's a up to 25% saving to be made, not just by clicking through the list till it matches our budget. Are you using beat the deal websites? There's some websites that'll beat the price in the majority of websites. Sometimes this can save you as much as 30%. But normally I'll save you a few pounds, if any. Are you using cashback services? Services like Quidco offer cashback for many retailers that range from 1 to 12%. Typically you have to wait 30 to 60 days for it, but still as much as 12%. Are you looking on trade sites for new and used components? Spending the time listing the parts you want and waiting for a response at the price you want might make it not worth doing, but spending a few minutes whenever you've got spare, scrolling through Reddit or UK Hot Deals, could if nothing else show you the price point you could expect and the general interest for those parts. Are you keeping a spreadsheet of the items you want and the prices? Just like aggregate websites, a complete list of your hardware, its costs, its alternatives, its final costs, and the alternatives' final costs will make sure you get the most out of your budget and your machine. Let's move on to our second last one, cross-checking and benchmark reading. Have you checked Google and YouTube for performance results and reviews? It's surprising how many people will look at a specific price point and just go with the most expensive component they can afford. It's always worth checking multiple sources, multiple games and applications inside those sources, and then comparing them against each other. Have you compared them to the price equivalent component? AMD and Intel or Nvidia tend to have their own hardcore consumers, but checking what the other has to offer could potentially save you money or increase performance, so it's always worth having a wee look across. Have you checked to see if you're over or underspending on a component you might not get the use out of? Spending more on a motherboard with SLI or Crossfire sounds like future proofing, in case you want to get a second GPU, but do you have a large enough power supply? Would your CPU be powerful enough not to be bottlenecked by SLI? And do the games you play actually support SLI or Crossfire? At last, let's move on to dumb questions. Should I buy a case because it's got LED lights or fans? Fans are cheap and so are LEDs, don't bother. Do I need a 5 1/4 inch bay? Do I need a 5.5 inch bay? It's a quarter or it's a half, I'm not sure what one it is, it's old, no one cares. USB 3.0 external DV drives are cheap and prevalent, unless you need a legacy drive for whatever reason physically inside your machine, or you want to add in hot swap bays, maybe then no, you don't need one. Should I spend more on a transparent side panel? You could pay nothing more for a windowed version of a case. If that's true, it won't help performance, but yeah, you could. Should I buy more than a 600 watt power supply for a single GPU budget build? No single card needs that much power. In fact, your system should have a few hundred watts spare under full load. Do I need more than 4 threads? No, well, ideally yes, but single core performance is still a much more significant performance determiner than multi-threads in the majority of games. And finally, should I buy new components because it feels safer? No, you should buy used components based on the seller review, the condition of the item, the remaining warranty, the ability to cover your sale against being missold, and how safe you feel. If you've got any questions about anything I've said, if you think I've done anything wrong, if you think I've missed things out, if you just think I haven't fleshed everything out enough, leave a message down the bottom, thumbs up or thumbs down. If you want to see more like this, like, comment, favourite, subscribe, join us for then.